From the high 10, it's Angela. Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. This is a 5-part live. This will be the first time I have done a live with 5 stories simultaneously. So bear with me. This will probably be a very winded live because I will drop the link in order for you all to give your opinion pertaining to the said information. Number 1, the Petito'S are suing the Laundries in a civil lawsuit pertaining to the death of their daughter. They do believe that the Laundries had knowledge that their son, that they knew that their son had murdered their daughter, Gabby Petito. Number 2, Miss Papini out of California has pled guilty to said charges of a faux kidnapping, hoax, and fraud, mail fraud. My third story, dear God, is pertaining to Victoria Rose Smith, a Caucasian baby girl who was beat to death by her Black foster mother. The father aided in this said beating. He has now pled guilty, and naturally he'll probably testify in the mother's trial May 9th of this year. This is a case coming out of South Carolina. The mother was voted the worst cook on the Food Channel Network. She won a contest that they had on the network. I will bring you that information, a live audio from the courtroom. And then my fourth story, hold on, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Trying to make sure I get them all right. My fourth story is pertaining to Candace Clark, a Black woman out of Chicago, Illinois, that has been scamming people out of their money, landlords out of their money, renting homes, townhouses, million-dollar mansions out of Chicago, owing thousands of dollars to said participants in the city of Chicago and outside of Chicago. I've just got information in the queue that her trial has been postponed due to some of the participants having COVID-19. I will get to that set information. And last but not least, story number 5 is pertaining to an African-American male out of California. I believe this is Compton, California. He has been arrested for robbing and assaulting gay men from the date sites, the gay date site Grindr. I will bring you that set information. I will also bring you studies done pertaining to homosexual and transgender, bisexual parties who have been assaulted in the United States. I will bring you facts and set information pertaining to that storyline. That will be my last story because it is the most controversial story. So I will do that one last. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you want to donate to the channel, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. I also put chat to welcome during this live. This will be an open chat to discuss all 5 stories. God bless me, because it's going to be a winded live. I will bring you audio that's in the queue and on my community post. I will also read you articles with a source pertaining to the said storyline. And then I will give you my commentary. I'll try to be brief because there's so many stories that I'm intertwining, but I needed to do it all in one live because I just didn't want to do individual lives. I'm going to stop doing individual lives. I'm going to start just doing different stories in the lives because it just makes it easier to cut down on my time because, you know, naturally Queen's got to have a break sometime. Thank you all so much for joining me. I've got Miss Serena, Marie Duff, and Miss Brittany. Thank you. If you want to give your opinion pertaining to Gabby Petito, Miss Papini, Candace Clark, the father of Victoria Rose Smith, who's pled guilty, the Compton man who's robbing gay men, and let's see, what else did I leave out? Because I said I got 5 stories. Lord have mercy. I think I've left somebody out. Papini, Petito, the death of the 3-year-old in South Carolina is number 3. Candace Clark, the scammer out of Chicago, number 4. And the Compton gay guy who's robbing gay men of their money said robbery, assault. And if you look at his picture, which looks like almost like a driver license picture because the background is blue, he was beat up badly. You can see blood on the collar of his coat. Somebody did not like him. Somebody out there in California don't like him because they beat his tail. He's got a bandage over his head. Baby boy is looking bad. But you reap what you sow. That's life. Let's hit it, everybody. Story number one. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for tuning in to the last live pertaining to Hollerville. God bless all of you. Prayers for Summer Wells. Amen. Cal City, Camille McKinney, all the children that I've discussed on this network. Prayers for all of them. Thank you all so much for joining. News Nation is the source. The first story is pertaining to Gabby Petito.
A development tonight in a heartbreaking story that captivated the nation and one that we brought you in-depth coverage here on News Nation Prime. The Gabby Petito case could now be heading to a courtroom next year. A trial date of August 2023 has now been set in the civil lawsuit filed by Gabby's parents against the parents of her ex-fiance, Brian the Laundries. Brian was at the center of a nationwide search after Gabby vanished while they were on that cross-country road trip. And their story and her disappearance gained national attention by documenting the trip on social media.
Hello, and good morning.
But what started out as an exciting adventure for this young couple, as we know now, ended in tragedy. Brian returned home to Florida without Gabby last September, sparking that search for the 22-year-old blogger. A week later, Gabby's body was found in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. And then in October, Brian's remains were found in a Florida reserve after an extensive search. Authorities say he died from a self-inflicted single gunshot wound. And in a journal found near his body, investigators say Brian admitted to killing Gabby. Dave Ehrenberg is a state attorney in Florida, and he has been following this case with us since the very beginning. Dave, always good to see you back. This lawsuit from Gabby's parents, they claim that the Laundries knew that Brian killed Gabby, and they are seeking damages for intentional infliction and emotional distress. Do they have a case?
Good evening, Marnie. It's a tough one. They should be fortunate to survive a motion to dismiss. That's the first step, and that is what the Laundrie parents have filed, which is just to get rid of the lawsuit where it doesn't go to a jury at all. So they first have to survive that, which means they have to show that they could recover in a case like this, that this kind of case, if you assume all the allegations are true, would be an intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, I think they may survive the motion to dismiss, but winning in the end will be really difficult because you've got to establish that there was a duty here which was breached. And what is the duty that the Laundrie parents have to Gabby's parents? Well, Gabby's parents are saying you have a duty to tell us what happened to Gabby. You have a duty not to lie to us. It'll be up to a jury ultimately to decide if it gets that far.
Right, and do they have to prove that? And how do you prove that? I mean, okay, you can say it was your duty to tell us, and they could say we didn't know.
Right, you have to show, if it gets past a motion to dismiss, you have to show at trial that there was something in the law that says that they had a duty to the parents. Now, the defense, you already see it, is that the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination meant that Brian's parents can stay silent. There is no duty to talk, but that only applies to criminal charges. That protects them against criminal charges. It doesn't protect them against a civil lawsuit. But there may not be a duty to have to affirmatively talk. Gabby's parents have said that Brian's parents ghosted them. Like, they blocked the Petito parents from Facebook, from messaging them on their cell phones. But is there a duty to respond to them? I mean, there's a moral duty, an ethical duty. Any decent person would have done it. But under the law, is there a duty? And then it gets even worse because they said not only did they breach their ethical or legal duty, they also actually lied. In paragraph 25 of the lawsuit, it says that Brian's parents went beyond staying silent. They actually affirmatively lied by saying, we hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and she's reunited with her family. Well, it's a crucial part of the lawsuit because that's what they're saying was outrageous and caused them extreme emotional distress.
The other thing that caught my attention, Dave, is, in addition to a court date being set, the Petito'S said there's more evidence that they want presented. They said that they have more information that would come out in court. I think back to when police investigating the case released kind of a one-page document of the investigation, and we all went, well, that's it. After months of searching, this is all we've got. Unless this goes to court, the evidence that they may be talking about, will that ever see the light of day?
No, they say they can prove the allegations, and there were two explosive allegations in this lawsuit. Number one, that Brian told his parents that he had killed Gabby. And second, that Brian's parents helped Brian attempt to flee. And those would be really important to prove. But in the end, that latter one about the fact or the allegation that Brian's parents tried to help him flee the country, that really doesn't have any relevance, I think, to the cause of action or the lawsuit. The lawsuit is about intentional infliction of emotional distress. Whether or not Brian's parents tried to help him flee wouldn't seem to pertain to that. It is something, though, that the public would want to know because it is quite salacious.
And I hear what you're saying of the likelihood of this actually making it into a courtroom. But let's play the what if game for just a second. We both know the public attention on this case from the very beginning was through the roof. So how complicated would it be to seat a jury in this case? Talk about the process if it were to come to that.
You know, Marnie, I've had a lot of high-profile cases in my jurisdiction. We've never had a real problem seating an impartial jury. It's not whether the jurors have heard about the case, it's whether they could be fair and impartial. And you'd be surprised how even people who know about this case could say, I'm going to put aside my biases and I can be impartial. And in the end, if they can't, they could move it out of Sarasota County. But I think if this goes to trial, and that's a big if, they could find an impartial jury.
Well, you know, we'll be following it closely as always. Dave, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Marnie.
All right, everybody. That's News Nation. That's my first story pertaining to the Petito's suing the Laundries. So did the Laundries have a legal obligation to tell the Petito's any information pertaining to the disappearance of their child and then later the death of their child? Did their son tell the Laundries what happened out there in Utah? Did he tell his parents that he harmed her? I think it's self-evident when he returned with her van without her that something had happened to her. And the fact that they now say that the Laundries sent a notice out to them, hope that they find her. Yeah, find her how? Alive or deceased? Because if you have knowledge that she's not alive, you should have told them. The fact that you blocked them speaks volumes. Why would you block people that you were cordial with? They want to know where their daughter is. They had every right to inquire, ask you questions, ask you to tell your son to tell them where is their child. He comes back in her vehicle without her. Why would I think that everything's okay if the van is back without my child? Your son is not speaking to us, and then you're not speaking to us, and you block us on social media. You probably blocked their telephone numbers. So it shows that you knew something, because why are you blocking them? You weren't there with them, so why would you be blocking them? It's common sense. What proof do the Petito's have that they know that the Laundries knew that their son had knowledge of killing their child, or told his parents he killed them? Do you believe he even told them that he killed Gabby Petito? What did Brian Laundrie tell his parents when he returned home with the van? They all went camping. Very odd behavior for somebody coming back with a young lady, her van, without the young lady, but these people were living in your house. Your son and this girl were living in your house. He comes back without her, and you all go camping. And then out of the blue, he decides to disappear into the wilderness swamp to only kill himself out there. And how ironic, you lead investigators to the very spot where he's found in pieces. Very strange, but they're not so strange because you had knowledge. I even believe that they had knowledge that he went out there to kill himself. Perhaps that was the farewell, to go camping with the family, to end it all right out there. Hey, mom, dad, I'm not coming back. Things jumped off out there. I did this, I did that. I'm not coming back. This is the only way out. I'll go away for life. This is the state of Florida, although the crime took place in a whole nother state. He's a mama's boy. He wasn't going to be able to hang in prison, jail, lawyer, no lawyer, bail, bond. It's all the same. He wasn't going to be able to hang. But these people showed that they were guilty Because whenever you start blocking people, you have some knowledge of something. Because it made no sense. You could have just kindly answered the phone and told the people, we don't know where she is. We don't know anything. But hey, we have her van here. You're welcome to come get her van and her things. How about that? She did leave belongings at their house, I do believe. So if she did have belongings at their home or storage facility, why not call the people to say, hey, you're welcome to come get her van and her belongings out of this house and storage. We will have it all here for you to get. Or we will give you the key to go to the storage unit to get her things. Because that was alleged in this baffling saga of two young people quarreling, traveling back and forth on airplanes, which didn't make any sense. Allegedly, he went back home at one time during the trip to clean out a storage locker, which was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why couldn't his parents have done that while he was gone? Who flies back across the country to clear out a storage facility locker and then fly back to only kill their girlfriend? It was almost as if this was planned. Something went awry on the trip, and he started plotting to get rid of this girl. Fly home, get rid of evidence, material belonging to her, fly back, kill her, then drive her van back, and then kill myself. It's almost like a movie. Very wicked, wicked story. And yes, them hiring a lawyer is evidence that they had some knowledge of the woman not returning wholly. That's story number one. Thank you for joining me. News Nation is the source. Story number two is pertaining to Miss Papini. This nasty, nasty lady out in California has decided to officially plead guilty to lying to the FBI and mail fraud. Thank you for joining me. ABC 10 is the source.
Joins us for a look at what has happened since the charges were brought against her. Bria.
Well, let's go back through the timeline here. So starting back in 2016, Papini disappeared for 3 weeks. She was found on Thanksgiving, injured, and she told police that two Hispanic women had kidnapped her. Now, as you remember, this story got a lot of attention, and the state provided resources to her just as it would any victim of a crime. That's including the California Victims Compensation Board, which gave her more than $30,000. So let's fast forward now. Evidence came up in March to show that Papini had made it all up, and now she's pled guilty to a single count of mail fraud and one count of making false statements. She will also have to pay restitution to her victims. That's going to cost her at least $308,000. So the charges carry a penalty of up to 5 years in federal prison for lying to federal law enforcement, and then 20 years for the mail fraud. But with that plea bargain, sentencing is looking more like a recommendation of 8 to 14 months. Again, while Papini has pled guilty to faking her kidnapping this morning in court, this actually came out just a little bit ago, and now we're just going to wait on her sentencing, which is currently scheduled for July 11th.
Okay, that's the next thing. Bria Love, thank you.
All right, everybody, that's my second story. ABC 10 is the source. Miss Papini has pled guilty, filing a fake report, mail fraud. She should do quite a bit of time, in my opinion. What is this woman's problem? Why would she do this? Something laxing in her life, not getting enough attention from her husband, family. Did she work? Did she have a job? We know that she's a parent. Now she has to pay this money back to the victims, California Victims Board. I'd like to know, why did they give her the money? Why did you choose this woman to give money to from this victims board? I'm trying to figure out, how does this really work? How do you decide who to give money to? Because naturally, California is a very big state. You have a lot of people who have been victims of crimes in California. So how do you choose who to give money to? Does the person have to apply for funds, or you offer the funds? And as I said, why would you offer funds to this victim? She was allegedly kidnapped by two Hispanic women, which we later find out that never happened. She's inciting hate, biasness by implicating Hispanic people in a crime that never happened. Why did you choose two Hispanic women? Why not two Hispanic men? Why did they have to be Hispanic, period? Why couldn't it have been 2 white women? Thank you, Eula. Why couldn't it have been 2 white women held you at gunpoint? Why are you lying any damn way? What the hell is wrong with you? You just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to run away from my life and pretend that 2 Hispanic women kidnapped me when I decide to come back from hanging around with my ex-boyfriend. She injured herself. Who does that? You know, most women don't like pain, so I can't see hurting myself, scratching myself, cutting myself, bruising myself, letting somebody hit me, punch me to prove that I was kidnapped. Hell, you stayed gone 3 weeks. You should have stayed gone 3 more weeks. What happened? Got tired of the life with the ex-boyfriend? You didn't make enough money? Wasn't the lifestyle you're accustomed to? You missed your life with your husband and kids? Oh, this was just, as they said, a hoax. You did it, planned it out. When you got tired of dealing with the boyfriend, decided to come on back and pretend you were injured. You were kidnapped by 2 Hispanic women. You better hope that you don't get kidnapped for real. Because I bet that didn't cross your mind while you're walking around ducking and dodging those cameras and reporters. Somebody finds out your real address and perhaps 2 burly Hispanic women find your butt for real and kidnap you at gunpoint. And then there'll be no more Papini. And then what? The story will be, Papini's gone again. Where is she? Is she pulling another hoax? But this time it'll be like the little boy that cried wolf. The wolf showed up. You have to be very careful. The webs you spin out here, the lies, faux crimes, because it may happen for real. This woman is diabolical. She's evil. She has no business being married. She has no business being a mother of a child, children. She's sick. And a lot of people have pulled these type of stunts before. One girl did it, college student, many years ago, pretended she was, I can't remember how the story goes, but they found her out in the woods somewhere up north, hiding out. I believe it was Minnesota somewhere. Just another nut. Then a woman in Georgia pulled the same stunt. She's about to get married. She disappears right before the wedding. Hey, you don't want to get married? Don't get married. What are you going to run away for? Just tell the groom, hey, I've decided I don't want to get married. This isn't working for me. You know, whatever it is you're feeling, tell your groom to be. But don't have people sitting around wondering what happened to you, worried. And see, that lets you know that the person is sick, that they don't even care about the people that they're close to, worrying about their safety, their livelihood. They lie, go missing, pretend they were kidnapped. These are very evil people, and I wouldn't want to have anything to do with anybody that will go missing before a wedding, pretend they were kidnapped. I would not have anything to do with them because you don't know who you're talking to. These are very dangerous people, because my thing is, if you're willing to lie about being kidnapped, what else are you capable of doing? You all better stay woke out here. You don't know people. And the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, has already spoken to the news saying he knew something was wrong with her. He knew she had not been kidnapped because he dated her and she lied all the time. I brought you commentary pertaining to that a week or 2 ago in one of my lives. I played the audio from the news report where he talks to a reporter. He has his back to the camera and he says all she did was lie when he dated her. So when he heard the story that she was missing, he knew that it was a farce. So I'm also wondering, which boyfriend is this? Is this the boyfriend that she went and hung out with for 3 weeks? Or is this another boyfriend that dated her? And how long ago was it when he dated her? Teenager or young adult? Either way, he tells the story that Miss Papini was a pathological liar. And I'm telling you now, if you know of someone that's a liar, lie all the time, spin lies, cut them loose. And if you're the liar, go get you some help, honey. Life is too short for that. And terrible things can happen to you when you lie. You might cross the path of the wrong person. They may not like it being lied to, lied on. They might do something very terrible to you. That's the sad information. Story number 3 is pertaining to a baby girl out of South Carolina. A very wicked, wicked story. Okay, you guys. This is a wicked story about a beautiful child. She and her brothers were in foster care, in the care of a black man and woman. And sadly, heinously, the mother beat her to death and tried to pretend that the child had been having some issues with food, digestion, or something. But the child went into cardiac arrest. She died from injuries to her legs being beaten. And the mother is claiming that the boy child, one of the other boy children, had beat the child on the legs. This is what she told the officers when they came on the scene. Well, here as of late, the husband that was married to this witch, he has pled guilty to aiding the wife because he was outside doing some gardening and came in and saw that the child was unresponsive. And he went to the store to get Tylenol to try to bring the bruising down, which shows that he had knowledge that the child was not well at the time when he saw the child's state. I'm going to play you audio from the news and from the court where he is standing court and his attorney is giving his guilty plea. His wife is to go to trial May 9th. He will not get his sentence until after the wife's trial, which is understandable because they want to definitely see what she has to say in the court and will she testify and what information will she reveal in the trial pertaining to her involvement in the death of her child, her foster child, and also what role did the father play and not play. The father is claiming no involvement in the actual death of the child, just that he had knowledge that the child had been beaten before by the mother. And he admits that she went too far, which shows he knows that the child had been beaten before and that the child seems to be the brunt of all the beatings, I guess, versus the other children. My take is that if you beat one child, you'll beat them all. This woman also won a contest on the Food Network as one of the worst cooks in America. Many of you have probably heard this story. Black family fostering 3 white children. I can't remember how many children total were in the household, but we'll get to all that. This is story number 3. WYFF News 4 is the first source of this information. Thank you for joining me.
She is told that she can't. Ultimately, Greenville County couple accused of killing their foster child appeared in court today.
Their appearance comes weeks before the trial. Taggart Houck was inside for that hearing. Taggart joins us live now outside of the Greenville County Courthouse with more on this. Taggart.
Jane and Nigel, yet today the state and defense essentially discussing which aspects of this trial should be admissible. We talk about the evidence here, but we have learned that the 2 charged here were working to officially adopt that child.
Austin and Ariel Robinson in court this morning ahead of the May trial for Tori Smith, the 3-year-old who died in January of 2021 after internal bleeding, specifically in her legs.
You are here today pleading to aiding and abetting homicide by child abuse.
He said he was outside the morning of January 14th when he heard the 3-year-old screaming inside and said Ariel beat her with a belt.
So you saw the bruising? What did you say, if anything, to Ariel Robinson when you walked in?
I just told her that it would have been too far. That we had gone too far this time.
Facing a minimum of 10 to 20 years, the judge ruled he can continue to stay out on bond under strict conditions until sentencing. For Ariel, the state and defense focused on whether police body cam video that day and the day after should be entered as evidence. The prosecution said Ariel willingly told her version of events to first responders. At one point, they say, blaming the bruising on her 7-year-old son.
You can hear what I would say is an excited utterance on the body cam where that one paramedic says, all this bruising is from the brother. And then this defendant is calmly leaned into Tori's bedroom saying, that's from her brother. He hits her, he kicks her, he's violent.
The defense said that shouldn't be admissible since she wasn't read her rights beforehand.
She is present in her house with 8 to 10 law enforcement officers, numerous other first responders. Everyone is wearing a gun and a badge. She asked to leave numerous times, and she is told that she can't.
Ultimately, the judge saying she'd likely make a decision on the video next week.
The judge also deciding today that certain photos showing that bruising could be used for this trial. It is set to begin May 9th. For now, in Greenville, Taggart Houck, WYFF News 4.
All right, everybody. That's sad information coming out of South Carolina. Let's go here. Bruising on the child's legs. The mother tells law officials, paramedics, that it came from her 7-year-old son, which we know that is a lie. So that means she had willing knowledge of how the child came to be in cardiac arrest because she beat the child. So I do not believe she was intimidated by the law officials and paramedics there. You all called them. That's why they're there. You lied to them so you didn't have any fear. You don't have fear that they would think you did that to the child. That's why they asked, how did the child get all these bruises on her legs? Because you put them there, but you lied on your child so you knew wrong from right, right from wrong. The fact that certain pictures are going to be in question show what happened to the child before and after death. It has been said that autopsy pictures are going to perhaps show the insides of the child's body, how she bled out, which will be very graphic naturally, seeing the insides of a dead person. But the prosecution wants the photo shown before death, after death, to show how the child died, because they're going to have to explain to 12 members of the jury how someone died from being beat and then went into cardiac arrest. Okay? And naturally, law officials and paramedics are going to ask, well, what happened to her legs? And many of you are probably trying to put together, well, how did she die? Well, you got to remember she was a small child. So you're being beat ferociously by a heavier set person. Your hands are bigger and you're wailing on a small person. She went into cardiac arrest and she possibly had been beaten beforehand. I believe that will come out in the trial. And the husband says, you've gone too far this time. I will play that entire audio of court because she had been beating on the child before. So who knows what damage has been going on with the child, with her arms and legs beforehand. And if the other child was wayward, let's just say if it's one of the foster children, wouldn't you have gotten rid of that child and sent them back to foster care if he was unruly or you couldn't control the child? I do not know if this is her own child or if this is one of the foster children she was speaking of, but it has been said in commentary by the husband, no other child beat this baby girl. This is a black couple fostering 3 white children, brothers and sisters. One is now dead, Victoria Rose Smith. And also at the time of death, there was some wranglings with the state and her biological family to get possession of her body to have burial. The state eventually gave them permission to bury her. Common sense, somebody had to bury her. But then one could argue that point. Why are you all wrangling? Where were you when the children needed a family? Why were all these children in foster care to live with this crazy bat? Now you want to bury the child. You see, had you all been responsible, she and her brothers would have never been in the care of this crazy nut and her stupid coward husband to be beat. It's the issue of why she beat the child, because the child would not eat her food fast enough. Was she overfeeding the child? Was she giving the child too much food? That's why it took the child too long to eat, because maybe perhaps the child had eaten too much, was full, her stomach couldn't take any more food. Was this bat overfeeding the baby? You will hear commentary about the child being in church, throwing up on herself, leaving out of the church with just undergarments on, no dress. Very wicked story. Also allegations that there weren't any bruising on the child the night she left church when she threw up on herself. So that means she got them after church. into the next day by the said foster mother. The foster mother is incarcerated. As you heard in this commentary, the father is out on bond bail until the trial of his wife, May 9th. I will bring you commentary pertaining to that trial when it starts. And I want that heifer to go down. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And this husband, you are a coward. Because I believe you've had knowledge that your wife was abusive to the said children, and you didn't put your foot down as a husband and responsible parental figure for the said foster children and other children. You should have told your wife, if you do not stop battering these children, I'm going to call the police and have these children removed from my care. Our care. Because you're not doing a good job. So he's at fault. That's why he took a plea. And he wants the judge to make a decision only to his sentence, which is 10 to 20 years after the wife's trial. Naturally, because we're going to want to hear what she has to say during trial pertaining to her part in beating the child and also the role of her husband, who is now given his plea of guilt. I will now play you the said commentary. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during the live. That information I just played was by WYFF News 4. The next source will be the father in court giving his testimony to what happened on that fateful day last January. If you need to go into the library of my videos, I have commentary pertaining to when the story broke last year with the beating death of this small Caucasian girl child who was in foster care with these parents. Thank you all so much. Fox Carolina News is the source. This is a 15-minute video. Thank you for joining me.
Just because you
Feel free to hit the link afterwards to discuss all said stories in this live. Thank you for joining me.
Have you discussed this charge with your lawyer? Are you happy with what your lawyer's done for you? Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol here today? Has anyone forced you to plead guilty? Has anyone promised you anything to get you to plead guilty? When you plead guilty, you give up certain constitutional rights. One is your right to remain silent about this charge. Do you know that? You also give up your right to a jury trial. At that trial, your attorney will call witnesses for you, cross-examine witnesses against you, and say you have to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you plead guilty, you give up your right to a jury trial. Do you know that? This sentencing sheet says that you're 35 years old. Is that correct? How far have you gone to school?
fourth grade, not even graduated.
Okay. 12th grade that didn't graduate. Do you have a GED? What type of work have you done?
I worked at a chicken farm and a new super warehouse manufacturing this basically food line warehouse.
Okay. Are you currently employed? Okay. Have you ever been treated for any mental health disorder? Have you ever been treated for any substance abuse disorder? How do you plead to this charge? Okay. I want you to hear the facts in this case. I'll ask some other questions for you. I believe the prosecutor's going to ask questions as well. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. All right. And before we go any further, Mr. Robinson, will you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury. You put your hand down, and the answers you've given me here today are the truth. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. On January 14th, 2021, around 2:30, or 2:15 rather, this defendant called 911 and stated, quote, "We have an emergency. Our daughter, she's unresponsive. She drank a lot of water. We tried to do CPR to get it out. Our 3-year-old daughter is choking on water right now." Police responded to 515 Selwood Circle within Greenville County and found 3-year-old Victoria Rose Smith unresponsive and badly injured. Co-defendant Ariel Robinson told first responders that they thought Tori was drinking too much water. The firefighters saw unexplained excessive bruising all over Tori's body, deep purple bruising on her abdomen, bruising on her ear, bruising down her back, and up and down both of her legs. Police talked with Ariel Robinson, who gave an account of Tori's day on January 13th, 2021, and the events leading up to when this defendant called 911. She told police that the night before, Tori had thrown up on the way to church. Ariel Robinson said after church, they ate pizza at home and Tori seemed fine. They went to bed with no issues, she said. The next morning on January 14th, 2021, Ariel said Tori woke up, ate pancakes while she and this defendant were home alone with the child, and the other 4 children were at school. Ariel Robinson said Tori kept asking for water, and this defendant filled up her cup 5 or 6 times. She also said Tori said her stomach hurt and that she was cold. She gave her a heated blanket and was holding Tori when Ariel Robinson said the child went limp. Ariel Robinson then said she tried to perform the Heimlich maneuver because she thought the child was choking. While police were on the scene, this defendant maintained Ariel Robinson's account of what happened to Tori. "We took CPR training. She was pressing on her stomach," end quote. Investigator McGall asked this defendant, "Do you feel like her airway was blocked?" This defendant said, "I'm not sure. I was too busy trying to get paramedics here. She first thought she was choking. She tried to do the Heimlich." Investigators asked Ariel Robinson, judge, about the bruising on Tori's abdomen and whether it was there prior to EMS getting there. She said, "I did that." She said, "I was pushing really hard." Then an officer asked about the extensive bruising on Victoria's body. That's when Ariel Robinson blamed Tori's 7-year-old brother for the other bruising up and down her legs. She said he had anger issues. The officer further asked what a 7-year-old could do to cause such extreme bruising to the child's legs, and co-defendant Ariel Robinson said he'll pick up anything and hit her. Tori died, judge, later that day. An autopsy was conducted by Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Michael Ward, and he determined that Tori died from multiple blunt force trauma, and the manner of death was homicide. In Dr. Ward's terms, she bled out inside her own legs. Several days later, they were both arrested. After the arrest, Austin Robinson's attorney, Lucas Marchant, who's present in court, contacted the state and stated that his client wished to make a statement. No promises were given to this defendant, and the phone call was on this defendant's accord. The defendant came in voluntarily and met with police to tell what had really happened to Tori. He said he had not physically ever hurt Tori, but that his wife would spank and beat her. Austin Robinson said Ariel Robinson hit Tori with different things, including a belt, paddle, flip-flop, hand, or whatever. He said Tori got the worst of it for some reason when Ariel would become angry over eating habits, such as Tori taking too long. He told police how Ariel had become angry the night before Tori's death because she threw up on herself on the way to church. The next morning, this defendant said it all started when Ariel was fussing at Tori for not eating her pancakes fast enough, and that Ariel had put Tori on a timer. This defendant said he heard Ariel beat Tori with a belt from outside the house and he could hear Tori crying. This defendant came inside and saw Ariel Robinson standing over Tori with a belt saying, "You're not done. You don't get to tell me when you're done." When he saw how badly Tori was beaten, he told Ariel, "Look at her. You've done too much. You've gone too far. You went too far this time." Ariel then put Tori in an Epsom salt bath. This defendant went off to CVS to buy medication to bring down the bruising, judge. This was at 1:00 p.m. 911 was not contacted until around 2:15 p.m. Law enforcement secured video from the CVS showing Austin Robinson, in fact, buying that liquid Tylenol that he talked about around 1:00 in his statement to police. Law enforcement also secured video from the church where the Robinsons attended church the night before Tori's death. The video at one point shows Tori being walked out of the church by Ariel Robinson wearing what appears to be nothing but a diaper and some undergarment, Judge. And in the video, you see no visible injuries to the child's back, her legs, or her body at this time. The child did not have any known health problems, did not attend school, and at the time of Tori's death, the Robinsons were fostering to adopt Tori and her two brothers. Judge, the state has a few questions to ask Mr. Robinson.
All right. Mr. Robinson, go any further. You heard the facts and stated by the solicitor. Is that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you put the discharge homicide by aiding and abetting homicide by child abuse? All right. Section plea is being freely and voluntarily made with the advice of extremely competent counsel, with whom you say you're well satisfied. It does have a substantial factual basis. I'll remind you you're under oath.
Mr. Robinson, when you were outside the house that morning, what did you hear?
I heard Tori screaming.
Sorry about that. He's testifying to what he heard and saw on that fateful day. Sorry about that.
And what were you doing outside the house?
I was putting up, doing a little bit of yard work. Basically just I had just let my van get towed off and all that stuff. I was trying to get that fixed. Other than that, I was just trying to pick up like stuff from the backyard to the front yard to the front at that time.
What was Tori screaming and crying about?
Basically just getting fussed about another, getting over for night.
And I'm sorry, you said a whooping?
Yes,
Okay. Had you ever heard this before?
yes,
Can you speak a little louder?
yes, ma'am.
So you were outside, you heard this whooping happening.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you not walk inside?
By the time I did walk in there, it was as if nothing was going on. Like I said, she was seemingly okay at the time.
Okay. That morning when Tori woke up, was she fine?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So at some point, do you walk inside to see what's going on with this whooping that's happening to Tori? And when you walked inside, what, if anything, did you see?
I saw the bruising.
You saw the bruising. Who was in the house when you came inside and saw the bruising on Tori? Can you speak up?
Ariel was.
And can you tell the court what, if anything, was Ariel holding at that time? And what, if anything, was Tori doing at that time?
She was crying.
What was Tori wearing? Nothing. So you saw the bruising. What did you say, if anything, to Ariel Robinson when you walked in?
I just told her that it went too far. That it went too far this time. I should have stopped it.
When you said that, what was Ariel holding?
Yeah.
After that, what, if anything, did Tori do?
She basically just tried to walk up the steps when Ariel went to go try to give her a bath. And Tori dropped off the steps, but she fell. And she kind of walked the rest of the way.
Why did she fall? From the what? I'm sorry, what?
From the meeting.
So she walks upstairs after falling. What happened then?
I went to go get Tylenol while Ariel tried to soak her in the bathtub.
Did Ariel's 7-year-old brother, with initials J.E., cause the injuries to Victoria Rose Smith on that day?
No, ma'am.
Where were the other children when Victoria was beaten by Ariel?
They were at school.
Nothing further, Judge. All right. Mr. Washington?
Judge, we thank you for accepting the plea. Obviously, this is a very heavy day for everybody involved. As everyone is well aware, the state is taking Miss Robinson to trial, I think, on May the 9th. I believe the state will concur with the comments I'm getting ready to make about his cooperation. As has already been recited, we met with SLED and some civil PD a very few days after I was hired. Met with them for several hours. We have met with the state for several hours. In addition to that, leading up to today, we will continue to do so and cooperate with the state in the prosecution of the remainder of the case. I have to put all that on the record and bring it to your attention because I believe we need to probably address the issue of bond, given that he has entered a plea. consideration his cooperation, the constant contact he has had with me. And I would point you back to the order that you signed back on April the 16th of 2021, where you granted a $150,000 bond with the conditions of HIP and GPS monitoring, no contact with any minor under 18 years old, must reside with his parents. Minors cannot be in the home. He cannot possess any firearms while on bond. If there were any HIP or GPS violations, that would result in his immediate arrest. He will stay in jail until the case is resolved. The family court shall determine any contact with biological children, but must be supervised by DSS. As your Honor is aware, he is here today. We've not had any violations with Sentinel or the detention center. I believe he's been in 100% compliance with DSS as far as contact with his own children. He has not had any contact with the other would have been adopted boys. So I'm asking, and I think the state would concur, so we can continue to prepare for trial, that he be allowed to remain out on bond. Prior to today's hearing, I made contact with Sonia Richardson with Angels Bail Bonding. I sent a copy of that statement to the court where she is agreeable to keep monitoring him, even though he has entered his guilty plea until his sentencing date. So respectfully, we'd ask that he remain on bond until sentencing date. We are aware that he will need to go to the detention center to be processed on the direct presentment, and we're more than willing to do that. We do have some logistical things to accomplish this morning, but we believe it can be done today.
Your Honor, just a few things to put on the record. One, as I previously stated, the state made no promises or anything when Mr. Robinson contacted the state and gave his statement. And I wanted to be clear about plea negotiations in this case. All that Mr. Robinson has been given is the ability to plead under subpart 2 in the homicide by child abuse statute. Subpart 1 carries 20 to life. Subpart 2, as Your Honor stated, carries a mandatory minimum 10 to 20 years. So Mr. Robinson is going to prison. It's just a question between 10 and 20 years what his sentence will be. We would ask the court to defer the sentence. The state is just asking for his truthful testimony at trial, and that once the trial is concluded, that he be sentenced by Your Honor within that range of 10 to 20 years in prison.
And the state has no objection to his previous bond conditions remaining in place.
No, ma'am.
All right then, very well. Then I will leave his previous bond conditions in place. I will accept the plea as I stated. I will defer sentencing on this matter pending the outcome of the trial. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, everybody. This is content that was uploaded 5 days ago. Fox Carolina News is the source. Let's chop it up. What you just listened to. Very baffling information of him lying out, Mr. Robinson lying out what happened last January 2021 in that house. He was outside fumbling with something in the yard. His van was being hauled off. He heard the child crying. He went in, thought she was okay until the child tried to walk up the steps to go get a bath, and she was falling. Obviously, that's when she was probably going into cardiac arrest. Her legs were failing her. And the interesting part is that he went to the store allegedly to get Tylenol for the child, which means you knew that she was messed up, that she had been beat severely by your wife. You should have been damn near beating your wife. And I'm not condoning violence, but you should have been snatching your wife up. Hey, what are you doing? You're beating this kid. She's bruised up. What have you done? Instead of saying you've gone too far, you should have been snatching your wife up by the collar. The fact that she was beating the child and the child was naked, have mercy. Because they asked him in this court proceeding, what did the child have on? He said nothing. So this crazy woman, female machine, Ariel Robinson, was beating a small toddler naked. The issues with the food. I do believe this woman may have been stuffing the child past the capacity of what she could swallow and digest. Because the fact that she said, you don't tell me when you're done eating. Perhaps the woman was giving the child too much food. The fact that he said the child was wanting a lot of water, drinking a lot of water. I don't even know if that's true or not. Perhaps this child has had some other issues going on under the care of this woman and man. Now, the state is saying during the autopsy, the medical examiner didn't find any physical ailments wrong with the child, but who's to say she was not overfeeding the child and making her eat what she thought she should have been eating? And the child was having issues eating a certain amount of food. We don't know because we don't know how much food she was feeding the children. So you see the outline of where the wrongdoing takes place. Night before church, throwing up on herself, exiting the church with just a pamper or diaper on or undergarments because the child threw up. The child possibly was having physical problems before death and before the beating. Because why did she throw up in church? What happened when they got home? What happened the morning of eating the pancakes? Why couldn't the child finish eating what she gave her? Was it too much food? Had she beaten the child the night before? So you don't even know what was going on, because when the paramedics got there and the police, they said they were in awe of the bruising. That's why the lawyers want to not have that body cam footage admitted into court. But it needs to be admitted because people need to see the state of the child before she made it to the hospital and before she died. That information needs to be allowed. Possibly this woman beat the child when she got her home from church the night before. Then she got up the next day, fed her pancakes. Who's to say if she really was okay while she was eating the pancakes? Because I got a feeling she probably was beat the night before for throwing up in church, disrupting this woman's church time with the Lord. Then she probably got up the next morning to feed her. The child wasn't feeling well. Feed her some more. She probably couldn't digest anything because she wasn't feeling good. Because like I said, we don't know if she got beat after church. So now she's not eating. Now the mama's wailing on her. Then it lies to the officials, paramedics, and the police that a 7-year-old child did it. Well, she knows damn well she's the one that beat the kid. And obviously these two have children together or other children outside of the 3 foster care children who happen to be Caucasian. Why did you foster these children, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson? Why did you foster these 3 children? I'd like to know. Why? Were you beating the other children, foster children, and were you also beating your own children? You beat one, you'll beat them all. The fact that you, sir, want to go get Tylenol for the baby, that means you knew that the child was in bad shape. The fact that the mother wanted to put the child in the bathtub, why? Because you wanted to what? Bring the bruising down before calling 911 because you knew the child was in and out of probably consciousness. That's why the little girl couldn't walk up the steps. She was too weak because she was 9 times out of 10 transitioning as she's trying to walk up the steps. You trying to put her in a bathtub means you had full knowledge of knowing you had beat the child severely. You knew the child was succumbing to the injuries. That's why you wanted to put her in the tub. What did you think the water was going to do to the bruising, ma'am? Sir. And then the husband lets the wife know you've gone too far this time. The child was the brunt of the mother's beatings. Why her? He did say, for some reason, she would get the beatings. So why were you, Miss Ariel, beating this small baby? Why were you beating this child? Why was she getting the most beatings? Was she unruly, rambunctious, acting out, talking back? What was the problem with this baby girl? Were you beating your other children and foster care children? How long had you had these children in your custody? Was appropriate protocol done in giving these 2 custody of these kids? When was the last time DHS visited the house? You have to ask all those questions now. Where are the other boys that were the brothers of baby Victoria? Are they in state's care? Why were these children in the state's care? Why didn't their family get them? All these people were arguing over the death of this little girl afterwards to bury her. Well, where were you when these 3 kids needed a family? You see, all these cases are the same. Summer Wells, Cal City, they're all the same. Callahan, I already know that the children were in school. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what the hell was going on in the house. Were all the children being abused? Why were these children in the state's care? Where was the family when these children needed a family? Because you coming after the fact, arguing over burying the little girl, you all going toe-to-toe with the state to release her body last year was ridiculous to me. Because where were you when the children needed a family? So the girl dies, the state still had custody of her, and you all are arguing over burial. Well, see, had you all been taking care of the children when something went wrong with the mom, dad, or whomever, she'd be alive. She'd be alive. This is a very wicked story of foster care gone horribly wrong. But both parents knew that the beating went too far. He admits that in court. She went too far this time. The child got the brunt of the beatings. Why was she always beating the child? How often did she beat the child? Did she beat the other children? What have the other children told law officials about the death of the little girl? What they noticed and lived and succumbed to in that house? And why you, sir, allowed this woman to beat the children? Or just this one child? It should have never happened last January. Because you should have told her, hey, you're whooping her too hard. You're too big. Your hands are too heavy. And that's the thing about beating kids. Your hand is heavier than a child, a toddler. You're basically fighting a toddler. You beat a child, you are fighting a child. For some of you who don't realize that. Because what you think is decent whooping, a whooping, you are heavy-handed. Your hand is bigger, arms are bigger, longer than a toddler, a school-aged child. So what you think is okay is not. Whenever you're leaving welts and bruises behind, the child has now turned green, blue, purple. You have beat them too much, heavily. It's abuse, whether you like it or not. And men definitely can't discipline children because their hands are heavy. You're hitting a child like you're punching a grown-up. This is not a man you're punching. You're punching a child, a toddler. You have no business hitting a child. You're a man. You're too big. You grab them by the arm, you could break their wrist. And people don't realize that when disciplining children. I believe in discipline, but you have to think about you are an adult and your hands are heavier, especially if you are a man. And this man seems to be a wuss. He probably did whatever this woman said. He doesn't have a job right now. Naturally, who's going to hire him? He gets to live with his parents. Strict restrictions, probably ankle monitoring. He's out on bail, no job. I believe they said he had a 4th grade education in this commentary. He was talking low. I could barely hear him. So he's not educated and obviously doesn't have any common sense. And possibly his parents didn't rear him properly to grow up and marry this bat and watch her beat their kids. I got a feeling Ariel was the head knocker in the house. Whatever she said, go. It went. This is a bad, bad, bad story. I think it's interesting that he took a plea, decided to go ahead and plead without any asking from the state. You willingly went in. Why did you go in, sir? Not plead, not guilty. You weren't there. Allegedly, you said you was outside while she was beaten. But did you realize that perhaps going to trial, you didn't want to risk too many white folks on that jury? I'm going to say that because it's in South Carolina now. There'd be probably a lot of white folks on the jury. You didn't want to be walking in that courtroom in a white town, white jury, and they're looking at your black tail sit up there saying, I ain't know nothing about them beating that baby. I just walked in and saw her with the belt. Baby was naked. I told her she went too far. You knew you said that in court. They'd say, well, hell, you was right there, and that means you witnessed her beat the child beforehand. So you went on and took that second deal, 10 to 20 instead of 20 plus. Because you knew you've watched her beat that child before and didn't do a damn thing. And you stayed with your wife and kept those kids. And you went and got Tylenol to try to bring the swelling down off the bruises. But the child was already leaving here because she couldn't walk up the steps. Those are your words. The child tried to walk up the steps, but she fell because obviously her legs were too weak to climb the stairs. So Big Mama had to carry her up to put her in the bath, which shows knowledge that you both knew that she went too far in beating this baby. And you all tried to cover up what was done to the baby on that fateful day in January. And then you had no choice when the child decided to be non-responsive. You had to call 911. And then your wife made up a lie and said that one of the children beat the girl in her legs. But they said there were bruising all over her ear, back, all down her legs. And also bruising to her stomach where the mother was pushing on her for the Heimlich maneuver, allegedly. But you know damn well that pushing on her stomach, how's that the Heimlich maneuver? You're supposed to be compressing on her chest. And you're already heavy-handed because you've been beating the child for God knows how long. You were doing more internal damage to her already besides the damage done to her legs. This is just a wicked, wicked story, once again, of child abuse and neglect. And it seems that it doesn't matter if it's the bio parents or it's a caregiver and or foster adoptive parents. People are just unfit to rear children, be either by the birth, giving birth by the womb, or taking them in their house. There is no surefire way that the children are not going to be abused in this country. It's just the way it is. You're hoping the children do better in foster care or being adopted, but that is not necessarily so. So you're now seeing these people are just as wicked with or without their own damn kids. They'll beat their own, they'll beat the foster, they'll beat the adopted children, they'll beat somebody else's child. So you all have got to get that out of your head. Oh, they're going to a better place. Well, you don't know the mindset of people. And just because somebody files paperwork to foster a child, adopt a child, they may pass everything on paper aesthetically, but it doesn't have anything to do with the mindset of the individual. And this is once again a poor representation of a foster family. A weak-ass husband, a tyrant mother who's now getting ready to go to trial for murdering a child, and the husband is given a plea of 10 years to 20 years. And he will get his rendering after his wife's trial, May 9th. But he's a coward because I do believe he's watched her beat the child on numerous occasions. And I do not know how long she had the children in her care. But she had, I believe, her own children plus the 3 Caucasian children. One white little girl and her 2 white brothers were in the care of Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. And now we have one minus child is dead. Victoria. That is her name. But she is no longer alive. And this bat was on the Food Network for winning a contest of the world's worst cook. Well, guess what? You have 2 titles now. World's worst cook and baby killer. How about that? And I do believe this heifer was a school teacher, if I'm not mistaken, and the information I brought you all last year pertaining to this case. So you had the nerve to be working with people's children, a mother of your own children, and a foster mother trying to adopt the 3 children that you have now killed one of them. Put that on paper. So you see, in the end, that's all you have with these people. It's aesthetics. Stuff put on paper. She looks nice. He looks nice. They're educated. The husband wasn't too educated. He hasn't even finished the 12th grade. So allegedly the smart one is also the baby killer. How about that? But you too, sir, have now pled guilty. So you are also a baby killer. by aiding and abetting. It's a very sick world. That's my third story. Gabby Petito was number one. Her parents are suing the Laundries in a civil lawsuit for knowledge of their son murdering their daughter. Did they know? Did they have a right to give information to the Petito'S? What was their legal obligation with the knowledge they had or didn't have? Number two is Miss Papini has pled guilty to filing a fake police report of a fake kidnapping and one count of mail fraud out of the state of California. This case here is number three, Mr. Robinson out of South Carolina, pleading guilty to aiding and abetting his wife in the murder of their foster child. The wife goes to trial May 9th of this year. I will bring you that said commentary. Number four story is coming out of Chicago, my home. There's a dirty bird up there who's been stealing money from landlords, squatting in their house thereafter, refuses to pay rent, stealing money from other people who've befriended her, pretending to be running for a public office when she was just using these people as actors and actresses in a video she made, fake documents for applying for work. She's been a dirty bird, and I'm going to bring you that commentary out of the shy. What is going to happen with Candace Clark? Candace, if you can hear the queen, I'm putting you on blast because it's time somebody puts your ass on blast. It's time for the reporter. Stop chasing you around. You're a very nasty person. You have a nasty attitude and disposition. You like scheming and scamming people. It's a wonder you haven't been in jail before. All these names and aliases you've been using up there in Chicago and outside Chicago to rent homes, $1 million houses on the north side of Chicago. How did you get away with it? You're filthy. You're a pig. And we've seen how you've left the houses behind. If you need verification for the information I'm about to bring to you, please go to my community board where you can watch the said videos of the police entering the house where she had her sister rent a house outside of Chicago, Calumet City. The sister, I believe you're also a fraud because you're going to willingly risk your credit for your sister who has been deemed a scammer. Why? Maybe blood is thicker than water. We'll see. Story number four, coming out of Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. We're going to start at the beginning of this saga pertaining to Candace Clark. Because many of you are going to try to figure out, who is she? What is she about? Why is she now the talk of the town in Chicago? Well, she's been dirty. That's why we're talking about her. So many videos to play, I can't even keep up. Let's start with the first story. I'm playing you 4 audios pertaining to Candace Clark. CBS Chicago is the source. Number 1. News 2. Thank you for joining me.
Prosecutor both have COVID. Clark is accused of conning homeowners and businesses out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker discovered, the cons appear to have continued while Clark has been waiting for trial.
It was March of 2020 when the owner of this small bungalow in Calumet City thought he'd found the perfect tenant.
She inspected the property. She said she liked it.
Decent credit, check. Good salary, check.
She gave me a reference and I called and she confirmed that she was a good worker.
Even better, she paid the first month's rent plus security deposit up front.
This is the check stub. She was making lots of money. She was making about $75,000.
So the landlord, who chooses not to be identified, rented his house to Velvet Dixon. She signed the lease. He handed her the keys.
I thought that she was going to be a good tenant.
But she wasn't, and the nightmare began.
I went to the house several times to demand for rent. I never met Velvet.
No returned phone calls.
I sent several inspection notices.
No response. Velvet Dixon was a ghost. But there was another woman in the house, only she wasn't on the lease.
She told me she wasn't living there, that she just came there to spend some couple of days.
There was always an excuse.
Just came to watch the house, help Velvet clean the house.
At the time, the landlord had no clue who who this mystery woman was.
Wow.
But the neighbors sure did.
And we was like, that's her.
By now, you probably guessed.
People were trying to find Kate. Half my face.
The woman living in the house was none other than accused serial scammer Candace Clark.
My wife, that's not her. That's her.
Ronald Sostan immediately broke the bad news to the landlord, but it was too late.
She's a slick lady. I seen your reports.
Her name is Candace Clark. The CBS 2 investigators did a series of reports,
Glued her name.
beginning in January 2020, 2 months before Clark moved into this house.
Dorothy Tucker would like to have an interview with you.
We tried to talk to Clark several times
What do you say to those people, Candace?
to get her side of the story. One thing we wanted to know, why 24 landlords since 2008 have accused her of cheating them out of some $300,000.
Why do you say they're wrong?
Our investigation led to Clark's arrest on January 17th, 2020. By the end of the month, she posted bail and was out.
That means only 2 months after being arrested, Candace Clark was at it again, involved in yet another con. Only this time, she had help.
If Velvet had not applied, Candice would not have been living in my property.
But who is Velvet Dixon, and why would she rent a house for Candace Clark?
Hello?
The CBS 2 investigators went digging for answers.
Hi,
On her rental application,
I'm looking for Velvet Dixon.
Velvet listed this house in Dalton as a current residence. Since she wasn't living in the Calumet City house, we checked here. But a somewhat irritated person shouted this.
No, she doesn't live here.
We also searched Velvet's past. She was a student at Percy Julian High School. Guess who else went here? Candace Clark. Back then, she was Candace Dixon. Yep, they're sisters. And sisters take care of each other. So when Clark wanted to get out of jail, her sister put up the $1,500. And when you learned that it was the Candace Clark living in your house,
I was terrified. I was really terrified.
but there was nothing he could do. It was the height of the pandemic. COVID deaths were soaring. The world was shuttered. Plus, there was a moratorium on evictions.
It really hurt me that somebody's squatting my house. I couldn't get the person out.
The months dragged on. It wasn't until January of 2021 a process server snapped this photo confirming Clark lived here. The following September, a judge signed this eviction order. But it took another 4 months for this day, January 14th, 2022. Nearly 2 years and $30,000 in lost rent later,
What's this paperwork?
Candace Clark was evicted once again. We weren't the only ones who noticed.
We think this may be that Candace Clark.
It was.
I'm sorry, I don't have mask on.
Clark is allowed to gather a few things
Hold on, 1 second. I'm trying to find clothes.
before she's forced to leave.
And they left the property in shambles,
Every room filthy.
destroyed my property.
Just like she's done before to so many other homes, Clark adds to the pain of property owners by causing thousands of dollars in damages. What would you like to see happen to Candace Clark?
I would like Candice Clark to be put away, to go to jail, to be in prison. She's destroying families. She's destroying people's lives. She has to be put away.
Dorothy Tucker, CBS 2 investigators.
Candace Clark trial has been pushed back now to June 3rd. You can see more of the exclusive body camera video from the latest eviction and catch up on all of the Candace Clark stories by going to cbschicago.com/Candace Clark.
All right, everybody, that's my first source pertaining to Candace Clark. I brought you this information a little while ago that she's a schemer, scammer. She's hired people to make a video as if she was a public official because she had to show some type of proof for a job she was applying for. She's been scheming and scamming since allegedly 2008. What is wrong with this woman? She is obviously a psychopath. There's something very wrong with her because she enjoys scamming from people. She scammed one young lady that she acted like she was trying to help, pretending to be a professional. She took the woman's money trying to help her get a house, and she stole the woman's money. It was about $6,000 or $7,000, if I'm not mistaken. I did tell you that the house is in Calumet City. Yes, the second house they went to go look for Candace, where they believe the sister lived. They went to that door, and the person said nobody lives there. That sounded like Candace talking through the door. I won't doubt that Candace is staying at that house in Calumet City with her sister. And I'd like to know why the sister stupidly signed for her bail to get out of jail. And why did you also sign for this house? I believe it said Dalton, Illinois, I believe. Why would you do that? Why are you messing up your credit? Unless you're also getting ready to go into the footsteps of being a schemer, scammer yourself. Because is this woman going to stand around and go to trial this year? Candace, why are you doing this? Why have you been moving into these houses, homes, and then stop paying the rent? Why have you been lying to people, pretending you're this and that, government officials, when you're not? Hiring actors and actresses to pretend to be in a ceremony where you're being honored, a fake ceremony. You didn't even pay those actors and actresses and the people who came to play music. It was a fake function. That's on my community board from about 2 months ago. Please go into YouTube Q to get the set information for my community posts. You have tallied up about $300,000 owed to different landlords around the Chicago metro area. Why are you doing this? We've heard of squatters, people that go break into people's houses, either rent it, somebody living there or not living there, turn on power, make fake leases to pretend that's their house. And some are bold enough to even apply for the house if it's a house that's just been sitting empty. You have people who are sinister, they're diabolical, they're scammers. They know how to maneuver and finesse the system and finesse people. And you have to have, as we see, the gift of gab to scam people, to make it seem believable. And that's Candace Clark. Now she has her sister on board to ride the ride with her. Why? Why are you riding the ride with your sister? She's ill. And God knows how many other names she's probably used to get homes. I don't see how she can keep using her own name because she will have a bad credit report for owing these landlords money. So if the people went and checked her name in the credit bureau, it should show that she owes money to this person, that person, that person. So that means she's had to been using fake names. Because once you use your government name and owe somebody money, such as a landlord or a company, they're going to file an action and it's going to be reported to the credit bureau. So how are you going to use your name for the next place if you owe money to this last person and then another person, then another person? So there's some BS with that. That is why she used her sister's name to rent this last house, because naturally she couldn't use her government name. So I'm going to ask the sister, why did you rent this house for your sister when you know what she's been doing? Why did you bond her out of jail? Did she coerce you into doing it? Threaten you? You can't be this blind. And when the news reporter went to the house in Calumet City, as you heard in his commentary, somebody yelled through the door, this person, you don't live here, blah, blah, blah. Sounded like Candace to me. I believe Candace is staying at that house with her sister. And your sister, you need to wake up or your ass going to be in jail with her. Because you fraudulently rented that house and let your sister stay in the house. Because when you go to court, they're going to want to talk to you too. They're going to say, well, ma'am, Candace, we know that you're a schemer, but where's your sister? Because she's the one that rented the house to this man. So where is she? So Sissy Pooh, you're not off the hook either. And you're an utter fool to be getting involved in your sister's wranglings with people, scheming and scamming innocent people out of the city of Chicago. Going to play you more commentary pertaining to this witch. She's been a busy bee, and I'm going to bring you the set information. I've played you all audio. There's a video I want you all to check out. It's called Catching Candace Clark, a CBS News special report. This is where you get to see the fake ceremony that she hired people to be in to try to secure a job. It's a bit winded. I think I've played it before on this network. But when you have free time, please check it out. It's called a CBS News Chicago special report, Catching Candace Clark. This will give you the rundown of who Candace Clark is and the depths of the fold she goes through, getting people in the fold to listen to her and follow her wicked ways and her schemes and scams. All right. My first story I played is about her trial being delayed. Because the judge and prosecutor have COVID-19. No, I hadn't played that one yet. Hold on. The first one was by CBS Chicago, where they're telling you she just got evicted from another home. That was uploaded 15 hours ago. Here is pertaining to her trial. CBS 2 is the source as well. Judge and prosecutor have COVID-19. This is pertaining to Candace Clark's trial. Thank you so much for joining me.
supposed to go on trial today, facing 6 felony counts related to various cons across Chicago. But her court date has been postponed. And this time, it's not because of something she did.
CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker was at the courthouse this morning. Dorothy, what happened?
Well, simply put, the trial never got started. Clark faces 1 count of impersonating a state employee. The other charges involve conning homeowners and merchants out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Her trial was supposed to start at 9 o'clock this morning. Our CBS 2 cameras were at the courthouse waiting for Clark to show up. When she wasn't there by 9:30, we started asking questions. That's when we learned Clark's trial had been postponed, but it wasn't her fault. Turns out, according to courthouse sources, both the judge and the prosecutor have COVID. So everyone agreed to reschedule the trial for June 3rd. But Candace Clark has not been patiently waiting for her day in court. We recently discovered that she has been involved in yet another con, and this time she had help.
I tried to describe Velvet. They said they could not remember anybody like that living in that house.
So who's Velvet, the person this landlord thought he was renting to? The landlord, who wanted to remain unidentified, rented his home to a woman named Velvet Dixon. He says neighbors don't ever remember seeing Dixon, but they do remember seeing someone else. Turns out it was Candace Clark. So why would Velvet Dixon rent a house for Candace Clark? And just who is Velvet Dixon? Well, coming up tonight on CBS 2 News at 10, we will reveal what we discovered about Dixon and how Candace Clark got the keys to yet another house where she was living rent-free. Be sure to watch tonight. And Brad, let me just add something else. Candace has been very busy.
Yeah, another unreal wrinkle. Dorothy, we'll see you at 10. Thank you.
CBS 2 is the source. That commentary where she's speaking about Velvet Dixon, the sister renting the house, that is commentary I just played for you pertaining to Candace Clark, the sister renting a house for her. And then the reporter, Miss Tucker, going over to Calumet City to look for her at the address, look for the sister. And somebody comes to the door saying you had the wrong house, blah, blah, blah. I do believe Candace is possibly staying there with the sister. Who knows? But she's got to have somewhere to sleep. And that's the gist of the story. Whether she gets put out of one place forcibly by the sheriff, she will still go find another place to go move into, use fake credentials, and start the process all over again. CBS 2 News is the source for both information pertaining to Candace Clark. I'm now going to play you some more commentary to this crazy woman. This is the sheriff's deputies going into the house where the man has been trying to seize the house back from where the sister rented the house for Candace. This is CBS Chicago as well. Thank you for joining me.
I'm gonna give room for us to flee a little bit. You got a taser? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I thought the same thing, and we'll talk. Yep. I thought the exact same thing. So I just want.
I think they're blocking out certain information.
I thought the exact same thing. That was the first thing I was looking at. I think it is. That's what I want to do. What is it? It is. What's the last name? You know what? That's not it. Sarge, listen, I'm audio and video recording. So are you. We think this may be that Candace Clark. She's giving us another name. Okay? Okay. So, you know, watch it. Hey, there's a pit bull in the house, in the room. But this is. Okay. Got it. All right, that's what it is. Tim. What was the last name given?
Dixon.
No, that's the daughter. Yeah. What it all is.
Yeah, paper back.
It is. I've been here before. Yeah. How you doing, ma'am? I was here before with you guys.
Yeah.
I thought you let me go a long time ago.
We got extended because he locked us out. We have a motion for that. We were locked out.
Okay, the motion you have currently is not a good motion, okay? So as the thing is right now, this eviction is going to proceed today, okay?
Okay, but I need to get a private address.
Okay.
Restroom is open. It's clear. You can take a go out there and get dressed.
I'm trying to get my clothes, but I have
Who's velvet?
this the owner the leasehold. She's not.
So your name? Do you have anything that proves that you can?
Hold on, 1 second. I'm trying to find clothes.
Something with your name on it.
Do you want me to go pull it up? Yeah, I clear. It's in clear. It says I can't go anywhere. Yeah. Tell them we can pull it up. Just give us the information.
No battery here.
Where's the DL coming out? Okay.
Good. Yeah.
That's fine. It is. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're getting it done right. Yeah. What did she say her name was?
Candace Dixon.
Okay. Got it. Okay, that's what I want to make. I want to make sure, and then we'll go. We just have one left on in there. Who's in this? The dog.
Yeah.
With the dog.
With the dog.
So that's why I want to make sure that we got this. But that, I don't know what this young lady's name is.
That's 10.
10. Okay. No. Okay, so that's where it threw us when I was looking at the face.
Right,
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Nobody looked about that. You're like, you're like, yep.
No, because we evicted her on that last time on the north side.
Right.
Got it. I was never here. That's why I was like.
Right. Yeah, I was with the original one.
This is what she presented us. Obviously, it was wrong. But that's why when you were so adamant about it, if you would have said like it would have clicked. I don't know. I didn't until I made it to the door. You mentioned. Oh. Yeah.
All right, everybody. That was information pertaining to the deputies there. They recognized Candace Clark. CBS Chicago is the source for that said information. Thank you all so much for joining me. I've played you commentary pertaining to this crazy witch. I played you now. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 3 sources of information from CBS Chicago 2 News pertaining to Candace Clark. And I will now play you the last audio video. Please go to my community board if you want to watch the actual video of them serving the Velvet Dixon eviction papers. And it's Candace who is inside of the said house instead of the sister, Velvet. And she has been recognized as Candace, who they've evicted before on the north side of Chicago for the same crime of not paying rent. She's facing trial this summer pertaining to pretending to be a state worker and other said crimes of theft, scamming landlords. CBS Chicago is the source. This is my last video pertaining to this crazy person. There's a moving truck outside this house, and deputies are here to serve eviction. Thank you for joining me. Story number 4.
There's 2 keys. The 2 keys are for the 2 different locks. Yep, there's the pit bull.
Should open the door.
Look, there's a big ass pit bull, dude. Watch him coming through the window. I ain't kidding. So, Velet, Dixon, Velet, Dixon, and on everybody.
Yes. React. What room is that dog in? What room is that dog in? Anyone else here? Good morning.
Yes, my daughter's here.
What do you got, Tim? You got paper? Get it. I gotta let you know we're all audio and video recording. What's this paperwork?
We just went and found the thing yesterday. Here's,
Okay, so you filed it yesterday. You didn't file anything sooner?
we didn't know that we needed that, so my sister went up there yesterday. And as you see, we were already trying to get out.
Okay, so the order itself, the court order was filed September 23rd of 21. Okay? So you had until October 23rd of 2021 to file a motion.
We was locked out. And the motion was filed. We were locked out and I'm sorry, I don't have that on.
Okay, so the motion itself, the emergency motion is not good. But motion was filed yesterday. So
why is that not good?
because it has to be filed within 30 days of the court order, which was entered on September 23rd of 2021. So you had until October 23rd, basically.
Everything is clear except for the room with the dog.
Okay, so there's. I'm going to call a supervisor.
I called yesterday and talked to someone, and they had my sister go down and file that motion.
Talk to someone about what?
Her being lost. Yeah, she wasn't.
Okay, I'm just going to, if you mind if I see it?
Yeah.
And then I'll grab it and just wait because we're social distance, okay, man? Well, there's a moving truck here.
Yes, there's stuff in the truck. We got stopped because we couldn't go into the new place.
So they can't go into the new places for the reason they
It's
stopped.
5 days out.
5 days. Sheriff numbers.
Sorry about that.
Numbers.
And he said, my told me to take my sister went down and file a motion.
Okay, well, think about motion every day. We've been constitutional, right? What about her?
No, we were trying to find.
If you could.
5 minutes.
Well, it's 8:30 in the morning.
Exactly, so they're not open.
He went and filed that it was 12 o'clock yesterday and we had to get.
That's what she's saying. Correct.
Can I speak to her, to that person?
No.
Okay, again, I got it. Put me on speakerphone.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, they're gonna check. Where? So the motion.
They're adding out some information. I guess they don't want released to the public. The body cam footage.
So what date did you say that you would be in the new place?
We were supposed to go in. We were supposed to go in there last week, but after Thursday, we talked to Dawn and Dana in social services and told her and informed her. So they informed us of what to do, and so we couldn't go into our new place until Monday because she needed the extra time.
Sheriff's office pregnant. Yes. Okay, but she just threw at us that she had spoken to, she was supposed to be in the new place. Or not to go anywhere. Right.
It was Dana and
Dana said for you to stay here.
Dana said, no, you have time. I called her again on Monday, and she said, you're not scheduled.
What day was it?
As you see, the stuff is already ready to go. Stuff is in the truck. We have to stop.
Crypto for all means that people should feel included. I like that.
All right, everybody. That's the said information. Cook County Sheriff's deputies. Hold on one second. Pull that back up. Cook County Sheriff's deputies come to serve eviction order against Candace Clark. Supposed to be for the Velvet person who actually signed for their house, which is believed to be her sister's. Very diabolical information. Let me say this before I go into my next story. I don't know what is wrong with Candace Clark, why she keeps renting these homes and then putting up the deposit and then thereafter not coming forward with the said rent money. It's just diabolical. This nonstop scheming, scamming people out of their money, pretending to be a state official, government worker, whichsoever. That's what she's going to trial for. Excuse me, this upcoming spring or summer. This woman is sick. She's violent. She's sick. And now allegedly she has her sister on board at Velvet Dixon. And why, ma'am, you would go along with your sister to rent her a place, knowing her past history with renting places and not paying the rent is sickening to me. And I don't know, this is your government name, Velvet Dixon, whoever you are, but you're sick and you're crazy too to be helping your sister exact these crimes against innocent landlords. Because it's already hard enough for people to find a place to live as it is. And these people are kind enough to let her come in their house or apartment or whatever to rent a space. And then she puts up the money to move in. But then after that, she's done. So let's ask the ultimate question. Candace, where are you getting the money from to give up for the apartments and houses? Because you've lived as a one swanky address on the north side of Chicago. And that's probably when you were really getting money from somewhere, scheming and scamming people. So where are you getting your money from? Because you obviously don't have a job. You're leaving the place in disarray. The camcorder footage of this video of this house that you were just evicted from, you're a nasty little something. Kitchen filled with debris, products laying around, food, garbage bags, bags of clothing. So you got enough money to put down on a place, but you don't have enough money to buy furniture for the house, apartments. You won't buy furniture. You won't buy decent dressers to put your clothes in. It's very strange to me. So where are you getting the money from? Do you draw disability? What? Why hasn't the city of Chicago caught on to your devious deeds of renting places and then squatting thereafter, not paying the rent? You're going to get yourself hurt, lady, because somebody's going to get tired of you. And somebody's going to say, this heifer ain't going to pay me my money back because she don't got the money. And they're going to find you and hunt your ass down, and they're going to bop you upside your damn skull or plug one in your chest. You better be very careful because you seem to forget what city you're in. Chicago's a mean-ass place, and you're messing around with people's monies. And these people have to pay taxes on these said houses. They have to pay bank loans for these houses, and you are stealing their money from them by not paying them rent. And I believe somebody's going to find you, and they're going to do something very horrible to you. And nobody's going to even know who did it because you have schemed and scammed so many people in Chicago and the outside surrounding areas, they won't even know where to start looking for a suspect. Because if they're smart, they'll hire somebody to knock your ass off. I'm just saying. I'm keeping it real. Because you're asking for trouble. You better pray that nobody finds you before you go to court. Because if the news reporter can find your sister's house, they can lie in wait and stand out there and watch to see if you ever come in and out of that house. Because you're going to probably do it to somebody else here shortly before you go to trial. Because you got to have somewhere to sleep. And you're used to lying. You're a grand manipulator and a liar and a thief, and you like it. You enjoy what you do. You are a grand sociopath, narcissist. You have a very nasty attitude. The way you talk to that lady reporter, get out of my way, move. I'm trying to get out of here. In the courtroom, putting on at the court building like you're somebody important. You're not a Kardashian. You're not Oprah Winfrey. You're nobody. You're just a bum that refuses to pay the rent and pay your way through life. I mean, you don't even have enough sense to just, hell, go get Section 8. You don't like paying rent, so why the fuck you just don't go get you some government housing somewhere, pay a portion of the rent, and live happily ever after? You're really a buffoon. Because the time you're spending scheming people out of money to stay in luxury homes, you could be going to the government, applying for government assistance, get approved, pay a portion, 30% of your rent to the government to live in a nice little house, townhouse, apartment, and walk around and lie all you want to anybody that's willing to listen at you. But you don't have that kind of sense. You want an image to portray that you're doing well and you're living well and want people in the community to think that you're well off and you're somebody important, but you're just a bum. You're just a glorified bum. And I'm telling you, keep popping up for those court appearances. Somebody's going to be waiting on you. They're going to lie in wait on you, and they're going to follow you from downtown Chicago to wherever you sleep, and they're going to bust you upside your damn head. Just keep it up. You're asking for trouble, lady. You are asking for trouble. And I hope they put you in jail, because even if they give you just a couple of years in jail, you'll still get out of jail and you'll do the same thing again. You're going to die scheming and scamming people because, for one, you're older and you've been doing it for years. And 9 times out of 10, you've been lying your whole life. You were a pathological liar in high school. You lied and made up stuff then, because we've got commentary that even in high school, you were a liar. You made up stuff. You pretended to be some type of beauty queen pageant, and you were not. And I believe you used some girl's name then. That is not you. So you've been lying since high school, and possibly you was in grade school lying. Who's your mother and father? What type of life did you have growing up in Chicago? Did they abuse you mentally, physically, sexually? Because lying comes from something, and it usually starts at a young age, the lying. White lies when you're children. You're a liar once you're over the age of 18. So what happened to you, Candace? Somebody hurt you, harmed you. You had a jacked up childhood, so you pretended to be Alice in Wonderland, and it spilled over into adulthood, and then you started lying to get by, lying to be important, deemed important, valid. You need validation, so you make up stories that you're important. You're a government official, hiring people to perform a ceremony that never took place, that was never actual, but you needed it for a job, and you hired people and didn't even pay them. Hundreds of dollars you owe a lot of those people, actors who you hired. You're very sick. Please follow the content. CBS 2 News out of Chicago that's reporting on the story of Candace Clark, the grand schemer of Chicago. I have it also on my community post. There are many videos in the queue pertaining to this witch. Please go to CBS 2 News out of Chicago for verification for the information I'm bringing to you. She's going to trial in June, I believe, for pretending to be a government official, state worker, and other said crimes. She just got evicted from a house out of the suburbs. She's diabolical, and she's now looped her sister into the fold of these scams. Somebody's going to get hurt because somebody's going to want their damn money. And we're talking about $300,000+. You've been duping people since 2008, and it's now 2022. So you're talking about 14 years you've been scheming, scamming people. You stole money from some young lady, pretending to help her buy a house, her first home. You stole her money. She looked up to you. See, your problem, Candace, is that you're not important, and you want to be important. You want to be somebody that people can look up to and honor, but nobody's going to honor a liar and a thief. They're just not going to. You're no different than a person that meets a person under false pretenses and robs and steals from them, beat them over the head, shoot them. You're no different than the stick-up guy. You're the same. Well, Candace is a popular name, I guess. Different spelling, but same diabolical ways. That's coming out of Chicago. Candace Clark, everybody follow the content. She'll be going to trial soon. I'll bring you the set information. My last story is pertaining to a dirty bird out of California, another dirty bird that likes robbing and assaulting gay men. Let me bring you a little information pertaining to LGBTQ. PBS.org is the source. Thank you for joining me. Want to donate to the channel? $BeganJu 129 Cash App. All super chat to welcome during this live. This is a comprehensive live of 5 stories simultaneously being discussed during this live. Gabby Petito, Miss Papini, the father who aided his wife in killing their 3-year-old foster child. Candace Clark out of Chicago, a scammer, squatter, and my last story of a black male robbing and assaulting gay men off the date site Grindr. Thank you for joining me. Study finds LGBTQ people much likelier to be crime victims. This was uploaded October 2nd, 2020. The first study of its kind found that people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, gender confirming are nearly 4 times as likely to be victims of violent crime than those outside such communities. Although other research has long shown that LGBTQ people and gender minorities are disproportionately affected by crime, the study published in Science Advances, a multidisciplinary journal, on Friday looked at data that has only been collected since 2016, making for the first comprehensive and national study to examine the issue. It found that members of such communities, referred to as sexual and gender minorities, experienced a rate of 71.1 violent victimizations per 1,000 persons a year. So that's 71.1 out of 1,000. That's a lot. Compared with 19.2 per 1,000 a year among non-sexual and gender minorities. Let me repeat that again. Sexual gender minorities experienced a rate of 71.1 violent victimizations per 1,000 persons a year, compared with 19.2 per 1,000 a year among non-sexual and gender minorities. So that means bisexual, gay, transgender have reported 71.1% more violence per 1,000 persons a year versus 19.2 of heterosexual people. But it was the fact that sexual and gender minorities are victims of such a variety of crimes at such disparate rates, and who they're victimized by that surprised researchers, said lead author Andrew R. Flores, an assistant professor at American University. For example, researchers found that such a population is much more likely to be victimized by someone they know well than a person who is non-sexual and gender minority. The fact that sexual and gender minorities are victimized by people close to them at such higher rates does kind of raise questions hopefully future research can address about the nature of these incidents and the nature of these relationships, Flores said. There are certain socializations that goes in that. I think many people are socialized and have a certain disdain for trans and queer people, said Tori Cooper of the Human Rights Campaign, a national organization that advocates for the LGBTQ community. Cooper is the director of the community engagement for the organization's Transgender Justice Initiative. A survey of more than 12,000 LGBTQ teens around the country released in 2018 by the Human Rights Campaign found that 67% report that they heard family members make negative comments about LGBTQ people. Cooper said transgender people are particularly vulnerable, especially by partners or people close to them. The HRC has documented the killings of at least 30 transgender or non-gender conforming people in 2020 alone. The majority were Black and Latina transgender women. There's an incalculable amount of transphobia that plays into these relationships, Cooper said. The new study didn't have a large enough sample of surveys by transgender people to come to a conclusion about their specific victimization rates, but Flores said other research has shown they are particularly vulnerable. The study also found that sexual and gender minorities are burglarized at twice the rate of other households and that they are more likely to be victims of other types of property theft. The study is based on a national crime survey conducted by the Federal Bureau of Justice Statistics, which until 2016 had not asked respondents about their sexual orientation and gender identity. Researchers examined responses to the 2017 survey, which was released last year. But it may be a while before researchers can look at the data in this way again. The Trump administration, without seeking public comment, announced that it was moving the sexual orientation and gender identity questions from the general demographic section of its national crime survey to a part of the survey only pertaining to victims. This will limit what researchers can learn about crime disparities because asking only victims about their sexual or gender identification makes it impossible to compare those rates of the violence to the general population. This is an older article by PBS.org that was uploaded October 2nd, 2020, before President Trump came out of the White House. Another study by Williams Institute, Law, UCLA Education. LGBT people are nearly 4 times more likely than non-LGBT people to experience violent victimization, including rape, sexual assault, aggravated or simple assault, according to a new study by the Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law. In addition, LGBT people are more likely to experience violence both by someone well-known to the victim and at the hands of a stranger. Researchers analyzed data from the 2017 National Crime Victimization Survey. the first nationally representative and comprehensive criminal victimization data to include information on the sexual orientation and gender identity of respondents. It shows 2017 LGBT people experienced, as I just told you, 71.1% victimizations per 1,000 people compared to 19.2 per 1,000 of non-LGBT people. LGBT people had higher rates of serious violence victimization in almost every type of violent crime except robbery, which showed no significant difference between LGBT and non-LGBT people. It is clear that LGBT are at greater risk of violent victimization, but the question is why, said lead author Andrew R. Flores, affiliate scholar at the Williams Institute. One plausible cause is anti-LGBT prejudice at home, work, or school, which would make LGBT people particularly vulnerable to victimization in numerous areas, everyday life. Key findings. LGBT people 16 plus are nearly 4 times more likely to experience the violent victimization compared to non-LGBT people. LGBT people are about 6 times more likely to experience violence by someone who is well known to them. 2.5 more likely to undergo it at the hands of a stranger compared to non-LGBT. And I will bring you this story pertaining to a stranger luring gay men for robbery and assault. LGBT women are 5 times more likely than non-LGBT women to experience violent victimization. The risk of violence for LGBT men is more than twice than that of a non-LGBT men. About half of all victimizations are not reported to police. LGBT people are as likely as non-LGBT people to report violence to police. So, it's the same for whether you're gay or straight as far as reporting crimes to the police. These data show what was hidden from view before NCVS included measures of sexual orientation and gender identity to allow the analysis reported here. It is important that such data collection continue uninterrupted, said study author Ellen H. Meyer, distinguished senior scholar of public policy at the Williams Institute. The findings point to the importance of policies and interventions to reduce victimization and the need to consider the unique susceptibility to violence and the high rates of crime experienced by LGBT people. Let's see. Here it says 19% of transgender adults in the U.S. are parents. The first nationally representative sample of transgender people in the U.S. finds no difference in mental and physical health between transgender and cisgender parents. If you need to know anything about this type of information, UCLA School of Law, Williams Institute is the source. WilliamsInstitute.law.ucla.education is the source. I bring you this information because I'd like to keep you all in the know of what's going on out here in the community. If I do not make a video about certain topics, I post it to my community board because I naturally can't cover every story in the book of life. But this last story is story number 5, pertaining to a black male luring gay men to assault them and rob them. This is the said information. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. I've got 2 sources pertaining to this creep. When you see his picture, he was beat up. Somebody beat him up bad. Did the police do it or somebody else? Los Angeles Magazine is the source. Grindr robbery suspect arrested after allegedly targeting 21 gay men. Derek Patterson, 22, was arrested Monday on federal robbery charge and faces a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. This was uploaded April 6th of this month. A Compton man accused of targeting and robbing at least 21 men he met on gay dating app Grindr has been taken into custody, authorities said on Tuesday. Patterson is also accused of threatening to fry one victim's dog. FBI agents arrested Derek Patterson, 22, on Monday in Inglewood on a federal robbery charge, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Patterson has been connected to at least 21 robberies that took place between November 2019 and March 2022 in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and West Hollywood, according to a 38-page criminal affidavit written by the FBI agent George Maloney and obtained by Los Angeles. Many of the robberies had a similar pattern. Patterson would find a victim on Grindr, then meet with them at their home or at a hotel rooms purportedly for sex. He would then threaten the victim with a weapon, gun, knife, or taser, and demand money and their cell phones before fleeing the scene. During some altercations, he physically assaulted the victims, and in an alarming incident, he was able to convince the victim's parents to send him $700 by pretending to be their son. The first robbery occurred November 13, 2019 at a residence on 120th Street in Los Angeles. When the victim invited Patterson to his bedroom, he immediately asked for money. The man offered Patterson $20. But when he refused to give him more money, Patterson allegedly sprayed him in the face with pepper spray, hit him in the face with the can, grabbed him by the neck, punched him in the face multiple times, pepper sprayed him again, according to the documents. In an incident September 27, 2020, Patterson met another man who he agreed to have sex with at his residence at Beechwood Drive, LA. Patterson asked to use the victim's phone so he could watch heterosexual pornography in order to get an erection for their encounter, according to the affidavit. Patterson used the phone for roughly 30 minutes before telling the man to hide in the bathroom so he could take a phone call. When the man refused, they got into an argument, which quickly escalated into a fight. Let me read that again. This makes no sense. Used the phone for 30 minutes before telling the man to hide in the bathroom so he could take a phone call. When the man refused, they got an argument and it escalated into a fight. The man then called the police and Patterson cut the victim in the chest area with a knife he grabbed from the kitchen. He demanded money again and the victim gave him $200 via Cash App. Shortly after he left the residence, Patterson messaged the victim saying, "I apologize for all that, bro. I'm not that type of person. You just pissed me off. Didn't hide and my girl was tripping." Let me read that again. "You just pissed me off. Didn't hide and my girl was tripping." So obviously, he's what? A straight man just robbing gay men, or he's a bisexual man? I'm confused. Here we go. October 2020 robbery on Wilcox Avenue in LA. Patterson demanded money and threatened to use a taser on a victim when the victim attempted to let his dog out for protection. Patterson allegedly said, "Bring that dog in here and I'm going to fry him." The victim sent Patterson money via Apple Pay and eventually fled his own apartment to get away from him. Patterson, however, followed the victim into the middle of the street, screaming obscenities at him before returning to his residence to steal the man's property. An amazing security camera in the kitchen captured Patterson's rummaging through the apartment and removing items from the victim's home. In this Los Angeles Magazine article, you will see some video surveillance of the man standing in the living room picking up items to steal out of the man's house. He's wearing dark colored pants, a gray hoodie sweatshirt with the sweatshirt covering his face, and it looks like he possibly may have something over his eyes. And I can't tell if he's wearing flip-flops or not. This is very interesting information. A couple weeks later, Patterson threatened another victim with a taser at the man's home in Redding Avenue in LA. On Redding Avenue. "I'm not leaving here without any money," Patterson told the man, who asked him to leave when he realized that he was not the same person shown on his Grindr profile. Interesting. So that means he's using fake pictures. Okay. He said, "You made me drive here for nothing." Patterson then grabbed the man by his shirt and took him into his bedroom. The terrified man was able to break free and go into the bathroom where he called the police. Meanwhile, Patterson rummaged through his belongings and then fled the residence. Officers found Patterson hiding under a vehicle, but he ran away. After an exhaustive search, a police dog found Patterson in the victim's front yard and the LAPD arrested him. And maybe that's perhaps the picture that you're now seeing in the article where his face is scratched up. Maybe the dogs bit him. I do not know. He was carrying two $20 bills and a $5 bill, which was consistent with cash taken from the victim's home. Officers also located a stun gun near the spot where Patterson was found. Patterson was subsequently released from custody and prosecutors declined to pursue a case against him due to insufficient evidence. Ricardo Santiago, a spokesman for the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, told the Los Angeles Times. So this was an incident that took place. Let me go back up here. After October 2020. This victim here, this didn't go to court. After he stole stuff from the man, allegedly, It's very strange. The victim believed Patterson is targeting gay men and that he is a victim of a hate crime, Maloney wrote. During his final known robbery on March 26, 2022, at a hotel on Sunset Boulevard in Beverly Hills, Patterson, who was wearing a black face mask during the encounter, asked the man for a cell phone so he could watch pornography. While using the phone, Patterson locked himself out several times, which the man believed Patterson was doing intentionally to learn his 4-digit passcode, since it was the same code the victim used for his online banking, according to the affidavit. Patterson then took the man's wallet, threatened him, saying, "I will hurt you and I will shoot you." The victim was able to escape the hotel room and call the police, but by the time he used a laptop to access the Find My iPhone app, Patterson had already changed the phone number associated with his account. Patterson had also made multiple transactions using the victim's Venmo and Zelle accounts and had attempted withdrawing money from the man's bank account. Officials were able to uncover about 300 photos and videos apparently taken by Patterson through the iCloud account of one of his victims, the Times reports. Among the images were photos of Social Security cards belonging to other victims and a strange driver license photo of Patterson, which showed him with a black eye, bandage on his forehead, and blood on the collar of his hooded sweater. And that's what I was just telling you. The picture is blue in the background. So why would you go to the driver license office and take a picture and you just was beat up? Because I said, this doesn't look like a police photo, because the police photo you would have on, you know, a jail uniform. So here it is saying that they found this strange photo of him, of a driver license photo of Patterson, which showed him black eye, bandage on his forehead, blood on the collar of his hooded sweater, which is true. Officials said Patterson could face a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison if convicted. The FBI investigated the case with the help of Los Angeles Police Department, LA County Sheriff's Department, and the Beverly Hills Police Department. Anyone who believes they may have been a victim or targeted by the defendant is urged to contact FBI's Los Angeles field at 310-477-6565. Once again, 310-477-6565. LA Magazine is the source for this information. If anybody has had contact with this man, he's a black male, young. His hair looked like it was dyed red. Do not know what color it is now. He's in jail now. He's 22 years of age. He was meeting men on the Grindr app, which is a gay app, bisexual app. Is Patterson gay, or he just used the app to lure men, to rob them? So either way, whether he used a real photo of himself to lure these men, he still took a chance in getting harmed going into these house apartments, assuming these people would not do anything to him. Very, very dangerous behavior. 1 second. We'll take a quick break. Hold on 1 minute, you guys. Just 1 second. Sorry about that. If you want to join me for a discussion on all 5 subject matters, I'm already 2 hours in. It's very long-winded live. For those updates I wanted to get out, feel free to join me. Gabby Petito, parents, lawsuit. Papini pleading guilty to faux crime, mail fraud. Father aiding his wife and beating a 3-year-old out of South Carolina. They were foster parents to 3 white children who were related to each other. Let's see, Candace Clark, scammer out of Chicago, court trial put on hold till June. And this case here of an African-American male luring gay men on a date site. Is Mr. Patterson gay? He's now in jail, facing at least 20 years for said crimes of theft and robbery, assault. What you have to ask yourself is, how did he get a hold of this guy's card to know the PIN to do all this transferring of funds? That's very strange to me. Very, very strange. He came up with information for PINs, and the guy used the same PIN for the date site that he used for his account. And this guy obviously figured it out and was able to steal money from him. Also scam one guy's parents out of $700, pretending to be their son. This guy's diabolical. Is there a reason? What's the reason behind this? Just thirsty for money? Is he gay, bisexual? He told one guy he didn't mean to do what he did. He has a girlfriend. So is he in the closet? So what's the truth? Was the girlfriend calling while he was in the act of robbing the man? The girl's wondering where he's at. This is his way of hustling, coming up with money, luring gay men to assault them and rob them. Did he have any intention of having sex with any of the men? Did he ever have sex with any of the men? That's the first question I'm curious about. Did he ever have sex with any of the men? Because I didn't hear that mentioned in this commentary that I brought you. Two different sources. Did he ever have sex with any of the men? Or he's just using the date site as a ruse to rob people? One second, please. Got too much going on. We'll drop the link. If you have any information pertaining to any of the 5 subject matters in this live, feel free to hit the link and join us. Thank you, CR, for the super sticker. God bless all of you. Jeffrey, I don't know what you're talking about. No idea what you're saying. Join the panel if you have something you'd like to say pertaining to the 5 subject matters at hand. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, everybody. I have a lot of stuff I'm trying to do at the same time while doing this live. Multitasking. If you have something you'd like to say pertaining to the 5 subject matters, the link is in the chat. Feel free to give your opinion pertaining to the 5 subject matters at hand. Papini, Petito case versus the Laundries. The little girl killed in South Carolina last year by her foster mother. The father's pled guilty in court. He will wait till the mother goes to trial before the judge renders his sentencing. Candace Clark, schemer scammer out of Chicago. And this last case of Mr. Patterson, luring gay men, going to their homes and hotel rooms to rob them, assault them. Is he actually gay? Is it perhaps he's heterosexual, but he goes to the date site, the gay date site, to pretend to be interested in the men, want them to have sex with him, then rob them? He's lucky to be alive and not hurt. Are these men asking for trouble by agreeing to have sex with him, not knowing them, not knowing him or any other man? Because you do take a chance on hooking up with people for any reason. If it's just to have company, talk, sex, you don't know them, you invite them to your home, hotel room, or God forbid you go to their house, home, you don't know what you're going to encounter. You could be going into a trap to be assaulted, raped, murdered. They could have other people there to gang rape you. You don't know. Same thing with inviting them to your house. They could invite other people with them. You think it's just one guy showing up to the house. Could be 2 or 3 sitting on the side of the wall waiting. They bum rush you, knock you down. You have to be very careful in meeting people in public places, meeting them in rooms, hotels, houses, public, and also bringing them back to where you're living or staying. Hit the link if you have an opinion pertaining to the 5 stories at hand. Thank you for joining me. Hit the link. Give me your opinion of the said stories. And Jeffrey, how do you know he's bisexual? Do you know him? You don't really. You don't bring me a receipt that you know him personally. I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. Either way, it's dangerous meeting and greeting people because you don't know people. You don't know if the person that's coming to see you is genuine. Vice versa. Frankly, he's lucky to be alive and nobody harmed him, because going into somebody's home or hotel room, they could have sinister ideas just like he had. He's going there to rob them, and they may have something else in mind. He's lucky that as soon as he walked in the door, somebody didn't jump out and beat him to death, strangle him, choke him. See, the game can be turned on you. You're going there to get money, to rob the people, but who's to say that they don't have the same intentions? Have you come in there, rob you, beat you, hurt you, rape you. See, that's why you have to be careful in trying to go somewhere to do harm to somebody. It can be done to you. Are these gay men asking for trouble by wanting to only hook up with these men on the date site? Is that what the date site is geared for? I don't know. I don't know much about it. I haven't really heard anything about it. But as I said, whether you're a man or a woman, in meeting people, you don't know people. You take a chance in picking somebody up, putting them in your car, going out to eat or movies or a restaurant, or taking them back to your place or wherever you're going, having them come to your house, your home, your hotel. It's all the same. You don't know people. You can even meet in a public place and the person starts acting crazy, talking crazy. The gist of the story is remove yourself from that locale. But it's only a problem if you took the person there in your car or vice versa. Now you're in an open place with a clown. But it's still better to be in an open place than behind closed doors. You can still maneuver your way out of there. Sit in the bathroom. Go through the kitchen of the restaurant. Go tell somebody in the restaurant, hey, I'm with a creep. I need a way out of here. Do what you have to do. But when you're in the privacy of a home, hotel room, you don't have that luxury. And who wants to fight for their life trying to get out of the place with a said stranger in case things decide to go terribly wrong? Are these gay men asking for trouble by agreeing to meet somebody for sex? In all these cases with these men that he robbed, was there an actual agreement to meet for sex? Was money mentioned by Mr. Patterson, and did the men agree in text messages or via the phone? Yes, I'll pay you this amount if you come over. Did they ask for this? Some might think, yeah. You're hooking up with a stranger, even if it wasn't to pay the man for sex, you're still risking your health. You're risking your livelihood. Some would say that about women as well. Even if you two agree to just meet and greet at your home or hotel, even if it wasn't for sex, that you're taking a chance to be hurt, to be harmed. That's story number 5, Mr. Patterson. Luring gay men on the date site Grindr. Is this a date site for hookups only? Curious if anyone has any information about the date site. Candace Clark out of Chicago. What will the judge decide in her trial? 12 members of a jury. Will they find her guilty for pretending to be a government official and scheming, scamming people? Will the judge allow other information, to come into court pertaining to her scheming, scamming other people out their money, landlords? Will that be allowed in court? The man who pled guilty to aiding his wife and beating their 3-year-old foster daughter, will that information be allowed in the court? The camcorder of the officers when they went to the house and saw that the child was badly beaten. His attorneys are not wanting that information in to be admitted in the court, but it's viable to people to see the state of the child's body before death. Whatever the church has the night before when the child threw up in church, that needs to be also admitted into court. Papini, the woman who pretended to be kidnapped, she deserves to do every day in jail and owe the Victims Board of California every dime back, she and her husband. Why did she pretend to be kidnapped and hung with an ex-boyfriend for 3 weeks while being a mother and a wife? What was wrong with her? Another sociopath. And the Petito'S filing a lawsuit in civil court against the Laundries for having knowledge that their son murdered their daughter. Were they obligated, the Laundries, to tell the truth about what they knew pertaining to the daughter being missing and dead? Were they legally obligated to tell the truth? Many would say morally yes, but legally, were they supposed to tell what they knew their son did to the daughter? Why did they block them on social media? Why didn't they tell the truth that they knew something had happened terrible to their daughter? Why didn't they call them to tell them to come get her clothes, belongings, van? Why? Why not? You have nothing to hide. Your son had nothing to hide. Why did you block them? Why didn't you just call them on the phone, say whatever you had to say, and that had been the end of it? But you had to have some type of knowledge. That's why you hired an attorney. That's why you stopped speaking to them. And that's why you blocked them. And to this day, you've never spoken to these said people. And now you're wanting your lawyer to have this lawsuit dismissed. But the burden will be on the Petito'S to prove that the Laundries had knowledge that their son killed their daughter. And that they also had knowledge, that he did commit the crime. It's a very baffling story, and it's a horrendous story, the Petito story, Gabby Petito. She hung in there too long with Brian, and sadly, she was murdered by him. And he left her out there and took her van thousands of miles across country, which shows that he was guilty and knew what he was doing. And I believe he bid his family farewell in that park for their last time together because he knew he was going to kill himself. That's why they went out there to camp. And perhaps he told his parents he was going to kill himself, and they knew that. Did they argue it? Please don't do it. Turn yourself in. We can fix this. But he realized there was no fixing, because eventually they would find her body out there in Utah, which they did. 5 stories, all heinous and diabolical. One man killing a girlfriend, one woman pretending to be kidnapped and blaming 2 Hispanic women as culprits, one man aiding his wife and murdering their foster child, one woman scheming and scamming landlords out of money out of Chicago, pretending to be a government official, continuously stealing from people, not paying rent, squatting in their properties. And then lastly, 22-year-old black male luring gay men on a gay date site to rob and assault them. Very sad world we're living in. So you don't know people. In each story, somebody's accused of doing something heinous to another human being, which shows you don't know people. The gay men didn't know Mr. Patterson. Landlords didn't know Candace Clark. DHS didn't know they put 3 innocent children in the care of 2 diabolical human beings, machines. One adult stood idly by while his wife beat the little small child, naturally, more than once. He admits that in court. You went too far this time, which alludes that you've seen her beat the child before, but you didn't do anything. Caucasian woman exacting a hoax, a kidnapping, and parents wanting justice for their daughter being left dead out in the middle of nowhere, and her boyfriend coming home and acting as if nothing ever happened, and his parents ignoring them and cutting them off, which made them believe they had knowledge that their son had killed their daughter. Each case, a diabolical mind. Murder of a girlfriend, murder of a child, a woman pretending to be kidnapped, a woman scamming landlords out of money, a parent aiding his wife and murdering a child, sitting idly by, and then one man luring gay men to rob and assault them. And he is now finally in jail. I'm not going to hold you all. Since nobody has any commentary, that's fine. I've been on long enough today. But I thank you for following my content earlier pertaining to Hollerville. Thank you for watching this content with 5 interchanging stories in one live. This is the first time I've ever done a story with this many subject matters, but it's easier to do it this way instead of going live individually per story. If you want to get any information on the source, it has been revealed in here of news articles, and each story with audio was posted to my community board, and the information is also located in the YouTube queue. I thank you all so much for following the content of Everyday Shenanigans, new subscribers, viewers, people just stopping by to hear the content. I appreciate your patronage and your kind words on my videos and community posts. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $sign Big Angie, 129 Cash App, all super chats are welcome during the lives. God bless all of you. Have a safe week. Hope you all had a safe and blessed Easter holiday. And when I get more commentary, I will bring it to you. I will try to get out a Crime Vault video before the week is out. I did say later this evening. I will see how my mood fares, and then I will bring you more said information. But prayers for NYC. When I get more information on Mr. Frank R. James and that heinous crime he exacted in New York City, I will bring you an update to that. And if I get more information pertaining to Summer Wells, I will bring you that said information. As most of you know, it's been 10 months now on the 15th that the child was reported missing out of Rogersville, Tennessee. Any more information pertaining to Cal City, I'll bring you that. I don't have any updates pertaining to Camille McKinney's, the culprits in that case. But when I get it, I'll bring it to you. Thank you all so much for joining me. Have a safe week. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you, CR. Thank you so much, honey. Thank you for your support.